Hi, kids. So, this is going to be our last extension of the year. I know that you're studying weather and forecasting right now in science. So, we're going to go ahead and do an extension of weather observations and graphing, which is really weather forecasting. So, I know that you've learned a little bit about it. Let's just go over some terminology and what weather forecasting means. When we talk about weather forecasting, it's really actually very complex and very challenging. And here's the other thing about weather forecasting, it's still not perfect, right? We're never going to get to a point where we're going to be able to predict for 100% what the weather is going to be, right? That's why everyone gets so upset when on the news they say we're going to get a lot of snow and we don't end up getting a lot of snow. So let's talk a little bit about the most important part about weather forecasting. And really, the three steps to that are observations, analysis, and then the communication piece. You're going to do all three of those things in this extension. So here's the plan before I get into the lesson. You're going to obviously watch this lesson and set of directions on Thursday. Your teacher's going to push it out to you in your science classes. Then you're going to spend a week, or I should say 5 days, doing some weather observations in any location that you choose. I'm going to give you some hints and some links where you can get this information. Then what you're going to do is you're going to spend some time graphing all of that data that you've collected and analyzing your observations. Once you've done that, which is a really heavy lift, then you're going to spend 2 days with me on June 6th and June 7th. And we're going to create a weather board using some coding blocks that I just received. So we'll spend 2 days playing around with some block coding to create some kind of weather device. So let's talk a little bit about this graph. You're going to get this pushed out in the gifted page. It will be graded in your science class. And here's what you're going to do is number one, you're going to pick a location, and that location can be anywhere. I have links here where you can actually put in locations to find this information. And then every day for 5 days, you're going to track some and make some observations. Now, if you decide to pick somewhere really close to us right here, you can just do it by stepping outside, right? You can figure it out just from going outside. But if you pick a location that you're not near, like let's say California, you're going to have to rely on these websites. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to find out the temperature of that day. Easy peasy. It's nice and warm these days, unless you pick somewhere really cold. The second thing you're going to look up is called the barometer. All right, now the barometer is the weight of overlying air pressure that is pushed down on Earth. Barometer is actually one of the most important elements and observations that meteorologists use to predict weather. That's a really important one. The next thing you're going to look at is humidity. Now, humidity is the amount of water vapor that's kind of like sitting in the air. That's why when it's really humid, the hair doesn't do great, right? Because there's moisture in the air. You're also going to look up wind speed and wind direction. This link right here, this third one, gives you that. Wind direction and wind speed also is a very key element in determining weather and when weather pushes into an area, right? Because that's bringing in those currents. The other thing that you're going to do is, this is really great if you are picking this area, is you want to know what the visibility, cloud visibility specifically looks like. Cloud observation is key. And I have to tell you something, it doesn't require lots of technology. People in ancient times were able to look at clouds and observe the way that they looked and formed to determine what the weather was going to be. So you're going to look at the visibility of clouds, and there is a site here that you can see cloud cover to check out that, make those observations. And then the last thing you're going to do is, based on all this data, you're going to analyze or tell me, what does that mean? How does the temperature, barometer, humidity, wind speed and direction, and the visibility of the clouds tell you about that day's weather? What did it tell you? You're going to give me a write-up here about your observations, okay? You're going to do that for 5 days in the same location, all right? Once you've done that, what you want to do is, because atmospheric models changed based on variables in wind, precipitation, right? We know what that is. It's the amount of water that's kind of coming down on Earth. That's going to determine why weather is so fickle, right? It's not really predictable. But what you can do is, based on these observations that you make of the location, you can definitely analyze the weather, and you can start to make predictions about what you think the next day will be, depending on all this data, right? That's what meteorologists do. So now you've done your collection of your data. You are then going to, this is going to be hard, okay? This is going to be challenging, is create a line graph for every day, for every descriptor, okay, for your observations. So what you're going to see, I'm going to give you a couple of samples. This is a week's worth of data. Now you can choose how you want to do it, but I think this might be the easiest way. Let me just blow it up. I don't know if I can. So what you've noticed here is this is like the barometer for 5 days. And then they've given me the scale. So you have to do a little research here to determine what kind of scaling and intervals that you're going to do, depending on your data and the numbers that you collected, right? You're going to do it for humidity. You're going to do it for temperature. You're going to do it for wind speed. You might even want to do a separate one for wind direction. But you're going to create a line graph like this for each of these elements for 5 days straight. Okay. They should be accurate, your graphs. Your graphs should be nicely and neat, right? It should be organized, and it should be giving me lots of information. Okay. So you're going to go ahead. So when you're thinking about what do I need to submit, I need to have this observation chart. I need to have all of my graphs for 5 days. So my underachievers, my procrastinators, you're not going to be able to wait till the last minute to do this, because you're only going to have a week to collect this data. All right. And then what you're going to do is, after you've done that, you'll submit these two parts, the part 1 and part 2, and then you'll come into the gifted room here on 6-6 and 6-7 in lieu of going to your science class. And then we're going to do some coding. We're going to make some weather boards with some really cool coding blocks that I got. And we have some other makerspace things that you can be able to create. And maybe even if we have time at the end of the year, you can share it with your other 6th grade peers. Okay, so those are the directions. That's the information. If you have any questions, message me or just come on down. I'll see you before then. Good luck, and I hope you enjoy.